The saying, laugh and the whole world laughs with you, is more than just an expression. Laughter really can be contagious, and Chonda Pierce is the one who can start it all. Emmy-nominated and best-selling comedian, television hostess, author, and actress Chonda Pierce has brought laughter to audiences around the country for decades. In October 2015, she took to the big screen with her first film, Chonda Pierce, Laughing in the Dark, based on her husband's recent death. This is her story of unshakable faith. This is today's life. Chonda, thank you so much for inviting me here. You know, I watched your documentary, Laughing in the Dark. You know, it made me laugh and it made me cry.
Oh.
And it was just so...
You know, it did the same for me. I remember sitting in the movie theater watching it with my son, and I punched halfway through and went, my life is sad. This is the saddest movie I've ever seen.
It was so inspiring, though, too.
You know,
it had a little bit of everything.
I tell everybody, it took 53 years to live it, you know, so, and it took 53 years was crammed into 90 minutes, so it's a lot to take sometimes
it's a lot.
when you watch it in that short amount of time. But it is if it's anything, it is just an absolute offering of showing the goodness of God, even in the toughest times of life. And that verse in the Bible that says, and I will work all things for good. Mm-hmm. And that's been the story of my life, that's for sure.
Well, take me back to your childhood. What was it like growing up?
You know, it was, and it's funny, we're sitting in my, little house in Ashland City, Tennessee, where I went to high school. But I moved here when I was 15. The years before I moved here were difficult, to tell you the truth. I tell people, I had a great childhood. I laughed and had fun, and we played on the backyard, and it was fantastic. And I had a horrible childhood. Mm-hmm. It was life with a bipolar father. I heard the term manic depressive when I was about 14, and to tell you the truth, that was probably about the greatest thing you could have heard, because up until then I thought he was just mean. But to know that there was something working against him, and working against us, it almost gave a little bit of a reprieve or a relief that, he would like to not be this way. But sometimes your mental state takes over, and your body does not cooperate well. And my father was a good preacher. He was
a pastor, was he?
Yes, he was a great pastor. People loved him. But in the doors of our home, when the doors were shut, my sisters and I, my brother, my mother, we shared a unique life that we could hardly talk to anyone about. People don't like to know that their pastors are so human. And then, even beyond that, they don't want to know that their pastor has a very broken part of him. And in his manic state, he was much more of a danger to us than his depressed state. When he would get deeply, deeply depressed, he was very remorseful and regretful and sad and suicidal, and he cried. But in his manic state, it would almost get to the degree of narcissism, and he was very abusive and in a myriad of ways that are not good for little girls. And so we grew up with that good and bad. But in that was this thread of that my mother sewed this seam through every scene of my life, and that all that is taking place in him and all that he is not God. That God is better, and God is good, and the church is great, and God is love. And so it kept our minds focused not on the humanity side of my father, but the divine side of God. And how, look what God is getting us through, look how, and so we became this little team together, that we were going through this together, and these are our secrets, and these are our things. The tough part of that is, at some point in your life, secrets will always manifest themselves in some ways that sometimes aren't healthy. Mm-hmm. And so I had to learn very quickly to relinquish and let go of a lot of the past.
What about your comedy? When did it develop, or how did you?
Well, my mother says she used to rent me out to Sunday school parties because I was the middle child and the glue that kept the whole family together. And I can actually remember, cutting up in church or making everybody laugh at choir practice, and I can remember it feeling good, I can also remember and realize now as I look back that the comedy that I was creating on the inside of me was a defense mechanism. It was very much a way to survive. So it was much later in life, in my college years, did comedy all of a sudden, just get reignited in me about a career choice. That came almost accidentally. That had to have been a God thing. For a long time, your comedy, my humor was a deflection and a way to save my life. I never dreamed of it being a way to make a living. And that came in college. I was a theater arts major, and I remember looking back now, and I should have known that this is how the doors the Lord was going to open, because I fell in love with every funny role. As a theater arts major, you had to be in every play. I wanted to audition for everything that was funny. I liked the crowd laughing. I didn't like the serious parts or the leading lady. I only liked the leading lady if she was funny.
Well, you have a new movie coming out. Let's talk about it.
You know what's great about this new movie? No one dies. Spoiler alert, we all live at the end of it, It is, there was, I kept saying, there's not another movie in me. You've given my life story, what else is there left? Now let's just go create a character. And they were like, no, there's still story left here. We want to know what the follow-up, how's life now, and this and that and the other. Well, about 6 months ago, my girlfriends, my well-meaning girlfriends, the Christian ones that are always going to tell you what the Lord wants you to do, signed me up for online dating. Now, honey, that will either be the funniest material of my career or the saddest thing I've ever been through. But in that process of actually looking at a computer screen and have to write a paragraph with the thought that some man out there, might like you, I never even thought in those terms. Oh, does he like me? I haven't heard that out of my mouth since I was 18 years old, But when you have to do that and write down, not what you do, not whose wife you were, not what your children do, when you have to really get down to the nitty-gritty of who you are, that spoke volumes to me. And as I began to explore that idea, that's when the movie Enough came about.
Oh, I can't wait to see it. Chonda, thank you so much for having us.
I'm just honored. Thank you for what you do for Christian television across the country. We need you.
Well, we need you too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you living in the dark and you've stopped laughing? My sweet friend, let Jesus take your hand and pull you out of the darkness. He is the light of the world, and He will bring joy back into your life. Do it today so that you can share your story of unshakable faith with others and give Him glory and praise. This is today's life. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next week.